Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builder Supply. This video is to bring you a closer look at the best. This is their Combinating kit. This is a CD431-25E. Combinating kit is what it is. Inside of here is everything that you need to get started combinating best original cores, best small format cores in an A2 system. Has to be A2. They make a kit for A3 and A4. A2 is by far, of course, the most widely dispersed or installed system of theory of pins from Best. This kit will do your standard 1C cylinders, your regular small format cylinders, 6-pin or 7-pin, could be 5-pin as well. I've never seen a 5-pin, but they do exist. And then your 5E, what they call utility cylinders, and those would be what we'd call cam locks. You know, the single sort of tiny cam locks that you're going to have, what you might call a single shear line. There's no concept of a control key. You know, Best can do utility type cylinders that will take small format, small format cores. In a threaded body environment that you can install into cabinets and cabinetry and woodwork and things of that nature. But the 5E is in particular a small, tiny body diameter. Maybe it's, well, they tell you it's 3/4 inch body in the product catalog. So if you have a need to work on that material as well, it's nice to have this consolidated kit because it will give you an extra tool at the very least of combinating for that material. Now let's go over the contents of the kit so that you have an understanding of what's included. I'm going to rotate the camera down so we can just look at it as we go through here. According to Best and the way it's shipped, you can grab that handle. You can transport that in any position that you like. I don't ever do that. Because I find that over time the underside of the lid fatigues and gives me extra space for things to move around. So as soon as you open the kit, this is what you're looking at. You're going to get this black mat. You think it's a mouse pad. It's a pad on which for you to work. I'm just going to pull that out. We're going to set that aside a little bit. So everything in here is what's going to be included in the standard kit. And let's go over what that is. So when you get the standard kit, you're going to get your segments. You're going to get your A segments. Okay. 0 through 9. You're going to get all of your B segments, which will be your build-up pins or your master wafers, things of that nature, from 2 through 19. So your bottom pins are down here. They're on the bottom. Your top pins are on the top, and they're all up on the top, with the exception of the caps. They're all pins. Okay. Now, many Best cores require the caps. The cap is what is used once you combinate a chamber. You will then take the brass cap and you will insert it in with the tool, which we'll get to in a moment. So that covers everything down here. Bottom pins, top or driver pins, build-up pins, whatever you call them, and your caps. We're going to ignore these three for a moment. You're going to have your springs. Okay, obviously you know where those are going to go. You're going to combinate your chambers with your bottom pin, any master wafers, any control obviously your control wafers, any build-up pins to get to your pin stack, which in an A2 system, of course, is 23. You're going to get a set of, actually what I want to do is go through the kit, go through the product brochure. And again, you can combinate 1C and 5E cylinder types with this. As I scroll, I'm going to go through the manual on my screen here as we also look at this. You're going to get your AD501 key cut indicator. That's a key gauge. If you're not familiar with how those work, you basically insert your key in here and you slide it into position. That deep cut that's on there, that's a 9 because it's stopping at a 9. Okay? It's a little shy on a 9, but I would imagine it's supposed to be a 9. And that's how you work that. You slide it in. Where it stops, that's the cut of the key. So it's a nice handy way to identify what you've cut or identifying a customer's key for you to then cut. That's your 8501. The key cut indicator makes it possible to immediately determine the proper cut of best blanks, keys out of best blanks. For accurate test, use the 8502 digital calibration guide. They do have a micrometer is what they're saying. That's certainly not included. That tool would be several $100s alone. Moving down through the service manual, the CD540 best core capping block is included. IC capping block is what that says. You're going to get this capping block. Okay, so what happens here is you're going to insert the pin based on what cylinder you're using. 5-pin, 6-pin, or 7-pin. It's going to be 6 or 7-pin. You insert that through there, okay, and now your core is going to be properly located where you need it. I've got it upside down naturally. You're going to be located where you need to be, and then you will combinate through the top here, okay. You're going to be held firmly in place. This pin is going to act as its backstop. The barrels of the core of the best core capping block are in alignment with the corresponding barrels in the core itself. So the chambers in the cylinder and the holes in the capping block are obviously in alignment. And they also, this block is, you don't need a capping block in order to load bottom pins and driver pins, master control pins, and springs into the chamber. But what you need it to do is to help you set the cap to the proper depth, because there is a proper depth that's required. And that's accomplished by the fact that when you use your CD547 hand capping pin, which is included, there are actually 2 of them in here. When you drop your cap into the hole, when you encounter the cap, it'll be sticking out a little bit. When you tap that down and when it stops, you've set your cap to the proper depth. That needs to be done because you can't have too much or too little tension, so to speak, on the cap. I am lazy, so I like to use the slide covers and then set them all down at once. I don't like to individually cap cores because I'm lazy. That's the bottom line. It takes longer. Moving through the rest of the kit, you do get the hand capping pin. There are, again, 2 of them included. You do get the CD548 ejector pin. That's included in here as well. What happens is if you take your core and look at the bottom of the core, there's little holes there. If you need to eject everything, including the spring and the cap, you can take this, stick it into the bottom of your core and shove everything out. That will eject everything in the chamber. Your CD549 combinating tweezer, those are included. I don't often use tweezers to pin locks, but sometimes I do, depending on what I'm doing, where I'm doing. There are certain operations that you have to have tweezers, and tweezers are included. Moving down through the manual as well, nothing else is included in the base material that is listed in the manual. There are other parts in here that we've not talked about. What differentiates the CD531-2 into a sorry, I said that wrong, a CD431-2 into a CD431-2 5E, 5E, it's going to give you a 5E capping block, or a block, okay? So you'll get this handy nifty way to hold your cylinder. You're going to get this giant staking tool, because that's used with your slide covers, with your covers. So that cover is a V-shaped, I'm trying to turn my hand into a V. You slide that cover into the top of your 5-pin, because they're not individually capped. You'll place that tool on top of your cover, your slide cover, and then you'll tap it down, and that will flatten the cover on top of your cylinder, and that's what's going to hold the bottom pins, any master pins, and of course your springs in place. So that's what all of this is for. Okay. The kit doesn't close very well when it's in this sort of orientation because they've got a lot of extra stuff included in here for the 5E material. I'm going to actually set that there where it'll be a little bit fitter inside. Okay, that covers everything that's in this kit. This mat goes back in, and when the mat is inside of here, they do tell you, it is published, that you can move this or transport this in any orientation that you want. I don't, because I don't like pins to jump on me. I'm paranoid that they do, and I know that they do. Now, this kit is obviously going to be available for an A3 or an A4 system as well. Those systems are not interchangeable whatsoever. If you're buying a combinating kit, you probably know the difference between those, or at least know what you're working with. And maybe you don't know the difference between those because you don't have to. You know, you don't work on A3 or A4, so you don't know anything about it. That's fine. If you do have any questions on any topics as it pertains to combinating best cores or working with this service equipment, while I don't make a living as a locksmith, I do spend a measurable amount of time making myself aware, keeping myself aware of the theory of locksmithing as it pertains to small format. I wish I could have met Frank Best, who invented the small format core in the early 1920s, because what he designed has been duplicated hundreds of millions of times by countless individuals and other companies, and has become the standard by which interchangeable core operates, especially with the United States military. It is the standard system that is used. Ingenious. When you study, if you were to study how to combinate, if you don't know how to combinate an interchangeable small format core, and you study the simple math by which it works, you realize this is elegantly simple, but whoever thought this up was outrageously brilliant. At least that's my opinion. So it's a love affair when you start to dive into the math and science. There's not math, but the theory of how all of this stuff works. It's absolutely infectious is what it is. Finally, there's a link below this video to the manufacturer. Well, first of all, there's a link below this video to the cut sheet. The cut sheet is a simple document that just gives you an overview. There's also a link to the product brochure. Same concept, it's just the entire service equipment section of their full line catalog. Then there's the quick reference to combinating best cores. What you see there is literally what's on the underside of the lid. Okay, so no problem with that at all. There's a link, finally, below this video to the manufacturer's page within our website where you can review not only all of the best products that we sell, but also a link to the manufacturer's website, as well as a link to the full product catalog. But of note, of special note on that link is going to be their first of all, the service manual is there. That service manual is going to contain everything that you ever wanted to know on best parts, and in particular the subcomponents of all of those parts, whether it be a key combinator or it be padlocks or it be, you know, grade 1 levers and knobs, etc. It's also going to allow you to dive into the system of Master King, an overview of a best core, what all the pieces are called, definitions of the core itself, what is a control plug, what is a shear line, things of that nature. You can also get into the theory of Master King, what sort of things it can accomplish and other things that it, you know, may fall short of accomplishing. And that document is indeed an overwhelming document, but the data is at least there, and you can control F if you're looking for something in particular. The link that most applies to taking the next step of learning more about small format would be the link to Best A2 and A4 Keys System Training. That document is going to allow you to walk through relatively quickly how to go about combinating cores. You're certainly going to find online, I would imagine, I've not searched for it, but you're certainly going to find lots of ways to go about, or lots of people that will teach you how to combinate these cores. In that document, it is going to be listed how to do that. It does take some studying. It does take some practice, and I literally taught myself how to do it when I was 22 years old. I could key lock since I was 15. But you do need to read it and then do it. The only thing that I can tell you is be sure that if you're doing a master key system, you'll create a key bitting array. Make sure that control key is never used as a bitting in your change keys, because you don't want to have the cylinder trying to operate at two different shear lines at the same time. You can accomplish that if you want to. You don't want that. You don't want a control key operating as a control. You don't want a change key operating as a control key. If you ever find that your change key will retract the control lug as well, go back and study your math and realize that you can't use any of the bittings from the control key. That was like the very first thing I ever did, and I had to call on someone that I know that makes a living in a major key manufacturer's keying department and ask, what did I do wrong? But it's very fascinating. It's all there. The A2 and A4 Keys System Training is an overwhelming manual. I have seen it explained much more simply, but that document does get the job done. And I think if you get through it, you can then search out elsewhere and find more simple and straightforward methods of doing it. I've read locksmithing books that have shown how to do it, and I thought, boy, the original best published documentation wishes it was this elegant, because it is very simple and straightforward once you've practiced a little bit. And I would absolutely suggest that you get your kit, if it's the first time, get your kit, tear it all open, and just start trying to pin something and figure out what doesn't work. Don't cap the plug, the cores. Just hold your finger on the springs and try to operate your stuff, and you'll figure it out. It is nice to have a caliper so that you can measure your pins should you be not sure of what you put in there, etc. But that document is very handy because it's the manufacturer's original published documentation on how to go about doing it. The A4 system is identical in theory. It's just that your pin stack is going to change, and be mindful of which system that you're working on. Finally, there's a link below this video again to the manufacturer's page where you can see all the best that we sell. We were working on something there, obviously. All those catalog cut sheets as well, and then a link to the manufacturer's website. I'm partial to Best, and it's not only because they're the foremost installed system of small format, but I'll tell you this. Every single time I contact them for technical support, I get a prompt, professional, accurate, and complete answer. And that's just why I believe they continue to succeed in an environment where clients and users, large and small, have a myriad of options. It's all about technical support. You can buy a core from anyone, but can you just call anyone and get service down the road? That's what separates Best. Any questions on the Best product line or any other locksmithing equipment, please feel free to reach out to us. Thank you.